Have you ever noticed how some people don't just move through the world, they seem to times audition times for it? Every conversation is a performance, every silence is a threat, and every relationship feels like a transaction waiting to be balanced. If you've ever met someone who keeps a mental scoreboard of every favor, every kind word, every minute of their time, this is for you. To the outside, they are the ultimate giver, generous to a fault. The first to offer help, the one who remembers birthdays, the person who will go dramatically out of their way. But if you're on the receiving end, you start to feel it's a quiet, persistent gravity. Their generosity doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a loan, with interest. You find yourself walking on eggshells, not because they're angry, but because you owe them. You just can't figure out the currency. This isn't friendship. It's a ledger, and you are perpetually in the red. Most people call this behavior needy or clingy, but that's just the surface noise. What's really happening is a profound terror of time's invisibility asterisk. For this person, giving isn't an act of love, it's an anchor. It's a way to tether other people to them, because the unspoken terrifying belief is time's, if I don't create a debt, you have no reason to stay, asterisk. Their entire relational world is built on an economy of obligation. They are the banker and the debt collector. The kindness is real, the exhaustion is real, but so is the silent contract you never signed. Think of the last time someone did something nice for you, and instead of gratitude, you felt a slow, sinking dread. That's the feeling. You've just been emotionally gaslighted times into believing your autonomy is ingratitude. You're not being loved. You're being bound. This doesn't start as manipulation. It starts as a survival strategy. Picture a child whose care was inconsistent, whose presence was only acknowledged when it was times useful, asterisk. Love wasn't a constant. It was a reward for good behavior, for achievement, for fulfilling a need. That child learns a brutal equation, asterisk, asterisk. My value equals my utility, asterisk, asterisk. Unconditional presence feels like a myth. So they engineer condition. If I make myself indispensable, if I fill a need, if I create a times debt, asterisk, then you have to see me. You have to keep me. The tragedy is this works. In the short term, people stay. But they stay out of guilt, out of obligation, out of a confused sense of duty. The very thing the person fears being left becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because no one can breathe under the weight of a gift that was never free. Their greatest fear is abandonment, so they construct a prison of kindness to hold you in, and then they wonder why everyone seems so desperate to escape. We'll call this person asterisk, asterisk, the architect, asterisk, asterisk, because they don't build relationships, they build systems. Intricate, unspoken systems of debt and repayment designed to create the illusion of security. In part 2, we'll break down the exact moment the ledger cracks. We'll see what happens when a asterisk, asterisk, Karen, asterisk, asterisk, the embodiment of entitled rulebook, wielding demand, meets the architect's hidden contract. It's the clash of two different kinds of transactional rage. One is loud public and weaponizes outrage. The other is quiet, private, and weaponizes sacrifice. The explosion isn't about a refund or a manager. It's about a fundamental breach of contract. And the plot twist will reveal that the real gaslighting wasn't what you thought. The real victim isn't who you think. Stay with us. Asterisk, asterisk. Part 2. The ledger cracks, asterisk, asterisk. So you understand the architecture. You felt the weight of a gift that came with invisible strings. That slow sinking dread when a kindness lands, not as support, but as a deposit in an account you never agreed to open. You are now aware of the contract. The unspoken one, the one written in the quiet language of favors, sacrifices, and I just wanted to help. But contracts, even silent ones, have terms, and all systems break when the terms are violated. This is the story of that violation. The moment the ledger cracks, meet asterisk, asterisk, Elena, asterisk, asterisk. To the world, she is the definition of put together. A successful graphic designer, the friend who remembers every birthday, the daughter who calls every Sunday without fail. Her life is a curated portfolio of competence and care. She doesn't ask for things. She times anticipates time's needs. She is the human equivalent of a perfectly designed app, intuitive, helpful, seemingly effortless. But inside, Elena runs a different program. One built on a simple, brutal logic, asterisk, asterisk. If I'm useful, I will be loved. If I'm essential, I will not be left. Asterisk, asterisk. Her relationships are her masterwork. She doesn't just love people. She times architects, times bonds, weaving threads of gratitude, an obligation into a safety net she believes will hold her. Then there's Diane Diane is what the internet would call a Karen but that label is too cheap, too easy. Diane's world operates on a different, louder kind of transaction. Hers is a universe of explicit rules, posted policies, and customer service codes. Her currency isn't subtle obligation, it's entitled demand. She doesn't build silent ledgers. She wields the rulebook like a weapon, expecting the world to adhere to her terms of service. For Diane, love might be conditional, but those conditions are at least printed in bold. Their collision happens not in a screaming match over a coupon, but in the one place Elena believed was her sanctuary, her own family. Elena's younger brother Leo is getting married. Elena, of course, has taken charge. Not asked times taken asterisk. She designed the invitations, coordinated the caterer, and spent weeks crafting a handmade gift, a stunning, intricate family tree. It wasn't just a gift, it was a monument to her memory, her effort, her time's essentialness asterisk. Diane is the groom's mother. The fracture begins quietly. A seam in the wallpaper no one else notices. At the wedding tasting, Diane critiques the menu. Not with malice, but with the absolute certainty of someone whose satisfaction is a line item in a contract. The salmon will be too dry for that price, she states, tapping the contract. Clause 7.2 specifies premium quality. This isn't it. Elena feels a hot spike of tension, not at the criticism, but at the Times framework asterisk. Diane is speaking a language of open terms, while Elena's entire offering is built on the unspoken. Elena's sacrifice her hours, her taste is being evaluated like a vendor's quote. Her gift is being Times audited asterisk. She smiles tight. I've worked with this caterer for years. Their quality is impeccable. What she means is Times, my judgment is a gift. Trust me. Asterisk. Diane looks at her not unkindly but with pure transactional confusion. I'm sure you have, but we have a contract. My son's wedding isn't the place for blind trust. In that moment, Elena's hidden ledger trembles. A line item has been challenged. Asterisk. Favors when entered into a formal ledger become services, and services can be rejected. Asterisk. The real explosion happens 2 days before the wedding. Diane reviewing the seating chart, Elena spent days perfecting moves 3 people. She doesn't ask, she informs. The Smiths need to be with the Johnsons. Business connection, it's important. For Elena, this isn't a logistical tweak. This is a breach of the fundamental covenant. She's poured her worth into this event, her taste, her labour, her silent monumental times, giving times. And Diane is treating it like a draft document. The architecture is being altered without the architect's consent. Elena confronts her voice, low trembling, not with anger, but with a terrifying, quiet devastation. After everything I've done, you just... override Times me. Diane is genuinely baffled. Override Elena, it's a seating chart. I made a practical decision. You're being very emotional. And there it is, the gaslighting Not the cartoonish mustache twirling kind, the lethal quiet kind. Elena's monumental investment of self, her currency of care, is being reframed as irrational emotion. Her sacrifice is being pathologized as sensitivity. The debt she created is being declared null and void. Elena doesn't scream. She goes silent. The system has failed. The prison of kindness has been found unlocked from the outside, and the warden is being told she was never in charge. Here is the plot twist, the one that changes everything. We've been watching Elena the architect crumble. We've seen her silent contract torn up. We think the victim is Elena, heartbroken that her currency is worthless. We are wrong. Watch Diane. Really watch her. In the days after the confrontation, she isn't triumphant. She's agitated, brittle. She starts picking fights with the florist, the venue coordinator. Her rulebook rage escalates. Why? Because Diane lives in a world of times, visible times, contracts. She needs the terms to be clear, the rules posted, the debt acknowledged. Elena's silent, generous, soul-crushing times, giving times, was a form of kryptonite. You can't argue with a sacrifice. You can't invoke clause 7.2 against a gift that says, I did this because I love you. Diane's transactional world has no defense against Elena's brand of emotional capitalism. She tried to force it into her framework and it broke the system. The real gaslighting wasn't Diane calling Elena emotional. It was Elena's entire times, modus operandi times, making Diane feel like a monstrous ingrate for simply wanting clear terms in a relationship. The real victim in this clash wasn't the giver or the demander. It was the time's connection itself, asterisk. It was murdered by two different kinds of fear, the fear of abandonment that builds silent prisons, and the fear of ambiguity that needs to nail everything to the wall. Elena's healing doesn't start with learning to ask. It starts with a more terrifying revelation, asterisk, asterisk. What if love isn't a system you build, but a space you inhabit? What if you are valuable not for your utility, but for your mere unproductive presence? Asterisk, asterisk. And Diane, her healing begins when she realizes her rulebook is just another ledger, a louder, more public one, that her demand for explicit contracts is just another terrified child's scream for a guarantee she'll never get. The aftermath is quiet. The wedding happens. It's beautiful. No one mentions the war. But something has shifted. A week later, Elena calls her brother. Not to check on the marriage, not to offer help. She says, "I'm really tired from all that. I might need to just be a guest for a while." It's a micro ask. A crack in the armor. She offers no grand sacrifice, just her human limitation. And Leo, her brother, simply says, "Yeah, of course. You should." No fanfare, no ledger, just space. It's not a happy ending. It's an honest beginning. The architecture is being dismantled, not with a wrecking ball, but with one honest, exhausted breath at a time. The strongest prison you'll ever build is the one you construct to keep people in. And the bravest thing you can do is not to lock the door, but to finally step outside into the terrifying open air of a love that owes nothing. If you recognize yourself as the architect or even as the Karen just trying to read the rules, tell us in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk. What's one silent contract you're ready to tear up? Asterisk, asterisk. This is the work. See you in the next one. Let me ask you something and be honest with yourself. Have you ever felt like a fraud in your own life? Not because you're failing, but because you're succeeding at a role you never auditioned for. You're the steady one, the anchor, the person who doesn't crack under pressure because you learned long ago that cracking was a luxury you couldn't afford. To the world, you are unshakable. But inside, you're conducting a silent, exhausting audit, a constant calculation of emotional debt and credit of favors given and owed of love measured in transactions. You don't just give, you give times strategically, asterisk. And every act of kindness comes with a hidden line item, a quiet expectation of return. Not because you're manipulative, but because you were taught in the quietest way possible that love is a currency, and you are perpetually in danger of going bankrupt. This isn't greed, it's a ledger of the heart. And if you're keeping one, you already know the total is always zero. You are always somehow in the red. Meet the architect, not of buildings but of relationships. Her name is Maya. She builds connections, not from spontaneity but from blueprint. Her love is meticulous, thoughtful and heavy with unspoken terms. She is the friend who remembers your mother's medication, who organizes the surprise party, who shows up with soup when you're sick. Her generosity is real, but it is also a quiet investment. Each act is a brick placed carefully in a wall of obligation, a structure designed to ensure you cannot, will not leave. Because for the architect, ambiguity is a chasm, a void where abandonment lives. So she fills it with proof. Her currency is care, and she spends it lavishly waiting for the return payment of guaranteed loyalty. The problem isn't the giving, it's the silent contract attached to every gift. The contract that says, "Times I have built this for us. Now you must live in it. Forever." Asterisk. Then there is the auditor. His name is David. He doesn't build, he assesses. He needs the rules posted on the wall, the terms of service highlighted and agreed upon. He asks the questions that make everyone uncomfortable. What exactly do you mean by "we'll see"? What are your expectations here? Define support. To the architect, he feels like a hostile takeover, a cold, clinical force trying to dismantle her carefully crafted sanctuary with the blunt instrument of logic. He seems demanding, ungrateful, paranoid, a Karen of the heart asking for the manager of your emotions. But the auditor isn't cruel. He is terrified. His childhood was a house of mirrors where promises dissolved and affections were revoked without notice, where "I love you" one day could mean silence the next with no explanation. So his demand for clarity isn't a lack of love, it's a trauma response. He is trying to read the fine print on a document that was always written in invisible ink. So what happens when the architect meets the auditor? A collision of two terrified systems. Maya loves David by building. She anticipates his needs, fills his calendar with thoughtful plans, creates a world of seamless care, She is paying her currency into their joint account, waiting for the compound interest of security. David experiences this not as love, but as suffocation. Every unasked-for gesture feels like a new clause in a contract he didn't sign. Her help feels like control. Her anticipation feels like presumption. He feels indebted, trapped in a gilded cage of her making, so he pushes back. He becomes rigid. He asks for space in exact square footage. He demands they define the relationship for the third time. He seems to be rejecting her very language of love. And Maya, she feels the ledger tipping catastrophically. She has deposited so much and he is refusing to acknowledge the debt. Her fear whispers times, "See, you are not enough. Your currency is worthless. He will leave." Asterisk. Her response isn't to talk. It's to times build more asterisk. To give more intensely, more invisibly, tightening the walls of the very prison he is trying to escape. This is where we see the real casualty. It's not the giver or the demander. It's the times connection itself, asterisk. It is murdered by two different kinds of fear. The architect's fear of abandonment, which builds silent prisons of obligation, and the auditor's fear of ambiguity, which needs to nail every feeling to the wall until it stops breathing. They are speaking different emotional languages, each born from a profound childhood loss of safety. One learned that love must be earned and secured through constant invisible labour. The other learned that love must be pinned down and documented, lest it disappear without a trace. They are not opposites. They are mirrors. Both are trying to manage the unmanageable, the terrifying, beautiful risk of loving another human being without a guarantee. The plot twist isn't an event. It's a realization. It comes for Maya on a Tuesday as she is drafting a text to check on David after a minor disagreement, her 10th act of care in a silent campaign to restore balance. Her finger hovers over send, and a quiet, terrifying thought arrives. Asterisk, asterisk. What if my care is not a gift but a chain? What if love isn't a system you build but a space you simply inhabit? What if I am valuable not for my utility but for my mere unproductive presence? Asterisk, asterisk. For David it comes later. He is drafting a bullet-pointed email about his emotional needs, and he feels the familiar righteous surge of clarity. Then a hollow ache beneath it. He looks at his own document, this ledger of demands, and the counter-thought emerges. Asterisk, asterisk. What if my rulebook is just another kind of prison? What if my demand for explicit contracts is just a louder, more public version of a terrified child's scream for a guarantee I will never ever get? Asterisk, asterisk. The healing doesn't start with a grand gesture. It starts with a disarmament. Maya doesn't send the text. She sits with the seismic anxiety of not managing, not fixing, not investing. She lets the ledger burn. David deletes the email. He doesn't replace it with a new demand. He simply says, out loud to the empty room, "I am scared." It is not a happy ending. It is an honest beginning. The architect learns to leave open floor plans in the heart spaces, where someone can just times be times without owing her for the roof. The auditor learns to tolerate the quiet mystery of a feeling that hasn't been defined yet, to understand that some bonds are felt in the silence between the words. They are not fixing each other. They are for the first time times meeting times each other, not in the fortress or the courtroom, but in the vulnerable, uncharted territory between. The strongest prison you'll ever build is the one you construct to keep people in. And the bravest thing you can do is not to lock the door, but to finally step outside into the terrifying, open air of a love that owes nothing. If you recognized yourself as the architect, quietly building your walls of care, or as the auditor desperately demanding the blueprint, tell us in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk. What's one silent contract you're ready to tear? Up today, this is the work. See you in the next one. Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you felt, truly, times, still, times, not lazy, not unproductive, but completely at peace with your own existence, without a single metric running in the background to prove you deserve to be there? If the question itself makes you restless, this is for you. To the world, you are the engine. The one who moves, who achieves, who turns potential into proof. Your value is a calculation you've mastered effort in validation out. You don't just do things, you optimize times them. Your relationships, your hobbies, your downtime, all of it feeds the ledger. You are not living a life, you are running a performance review with yourself as both the employee and the relentless manager. And it works, until it doesn't. Until you find yourself on a perfectly curated vacation, watching a sunset so beautiful it aches, And your first unbidden thought is times, how do I capture this? How do I use this times? The moment isn't something to inhabit, it's content to be harvested. The silence isn't a respite, it's a blank space waiting for your productivity to fill it. This isn't ambition. This is a captivity so complete, you've mistaken it for purpose. On the surface, drive looks the same. The late nights, the focused intensity, the satisfaction of a goal crushed. But psychologically, there are two entirely different fuels in the tank. Healthy drive is directional. It comes from a place of wanting to times expand asterisk, to build, to create, to explore. It is connected to desire. It has an off-ramp, you can stop and your sense of self remains intact. Productivity dysmorphia is different. It's not a direction, it's a compulsion. It doesn't come from, I want to. It comes from, I must or I will cease to matter. Stopping doesn't feel like rest. It feels like an existential threat. Your worth isn't just tied to your output. It is times contingent times upon it. Without the proof, you fear you will simply evaporate. Have you ever finished a major project only to feel a hollow panic set in hours later? Not pride, but a vacuum screaming to be filled with the next task. That's the dysmorphia. You just crossed a finish line, but your psyche is already measuring the next track because the race wasn't for a trophy, it was for your right to exist. This is where people misunderstand you. They see the results and call you disciplined. They don't see the quiet terror that discipline is built upon, the fear that without the doing you are nothing. This wiring rarely starts in the boardroom. It starts in the living room. You were the child whose love was a conditional equation. Maybe it was spoken times, we're so proud of your grades, asterisk. Maybe it was silent, the warmth that only seemed to fill the room when you brought home the trophy, the lead role, the perfect report card. Your achievements weren't celebrated, they were times exchanged asterisk, for attention, for a fleeting sense of safety, for the simple, devastating belief that you were times enough asterisk. You learned a brutal, elegant logic. To be seen is to perform, to be loved is to produce. Your identity didn't form around who you are, but around what you can deliver. So you built a self out of accomplishments, like a sculpture made entirely of receipts. And it's a convincing sculpture. It gets applause. But inside, you are the quiet child forever holding up their latest offering, waiting for the nod that says, you may stay. The tragedy isn't the hard work. The tragedy is that you can never work hard enough to heal that wound. You're trying to fill a cup that has no bottom, because the original need to be loved, simply for times being times, was never met. You are solving the wrong problem with flawless, exhausting precision. For Elena, the plot twist wasn't a failure, it was a success. She landed the partnership, the one she'd bled for. The congratulatory emails flooded in, the bonus hits her account. She sat in her pristine apartment, at the pinnacle of her own blueprint, and felt nothing, a vast, echoing nothing, and then a memory. Not of a victory, but of a Tuesday. She was 7, building a sprawling, utterly useless fortress out of couch cushions. Her father walked in tired from work. He didn't ask what it was for. He didn't tell her to clean it up. He just smiled a tired, real smile and said, looks like a kingdom. For a moment, she was just a girl in a castle, not a future, not a potential, just a times kid asterisk. She had spent 2 decades trying to rebuild that kingdom out of promotions and accolades, missing the point entirely. The value wasn't in the castle. It was in the look on his face. The look that said her mere presence, her unproductive, imaginative times being times, was a delight. The success didn't fill her. It revealed the void. The prison wasn't that she couldn't achieve. It was that achievement had become the only language she believed she could speak. Healing from this isn't about quitting your job or burning your to-do list. It's about a quiet internal coup. It starts with the disarmament of a single metric. For Eleanor, it was going for a walk and times not times tracking it. Not counting the steps, not measuring the heart rate, just walking. And when the anxiety rose, times this is wasted time, this is unproductive time, she didn't fight it. She acknowledged its presence. Ah, there you are, the old guard. She began to introduce small acts of existential disobedience. Reading a book with no takeaways. Watching a movie without analysing its plot structure. Sitting with a friend and listening, truly listening without mentally drafting her next more insightful response. Each time her nervous system would flare. Asterisk. You are opting out of the economy of your worth. You will go bankrupt times, but slowly a new datum would register. Nothing catastrophic happened. The world did not revoke her membership. She was still here. The breakthrough isn't a feeling of constant bliss. It's the tolerance for stillness. It's the ability to exist in a moment without needing to extract time's value from it. To understand that your presence is not a startup, it is a poem. And a poem's value isn't in what it times does asterisk, it's in what it times is asterisk. You are not your productivity. You are the quiet space that exists before the thought between the tasks after the applause fades. You are not the receipt. You are the hand that held it now empty and finally unafraid. The most radical thing you can build is not a better portfolio. It is a moment of useless, beautiful peace. And you don't have to earn it. You just have to let it find you. If you saw yourself in this, if you're tired of being your own most demanding employer, tell us in the comments, asterisk, asterisk, what's one useless thing you'll do today just for the sake of being asterisk, asterisk. This is the work. See you in the next one.